Hi, and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what dating life was like in China. In my prior video, I talked about it, but I felt afterwards that there were certain things I didn't go over that would be helpful for some people, or just good to document in terms of the experience that I had there. So, got my list this time so I can kind of go through these things. Here we go. One of the first things I noticed while dating is AA, and I don't mean Alcoholics Anonymous. AA is a term they use in China to mean, each person, it's bill split. So each person pays for themselves. I noticed that when I was dating, and even when things were serious and it was boyfriend, girlfriend, splitting a bill was kind of a common thing. And in the West, generally, or at least for where I'm from, the U.S., generally the man is expected to pay for everything. And I know the rules have kind of changed in some cases, but for the most part, that's been the tradition as far as I can recall. So going to China and going on dates and seeing that the women are like, no, let's split the bill, I was kind of surprised. The mindset in the West is if the woman's not interested in the man, and of course this is a generalization, she'll probably say that because she doesn't expect this to go anywhere, or doesn't want him to have any funny ideas, so to speak. So she'll split the bill and that'll be the end of it. Or if it's just wants a friendship, doesn't expect him to pay for stuff. So I was kind of surprised when I saw this, and took me a little getting used to, but I was kind of glad because it took the pressure off having to pay on a constant basis, courting someone that may or may not be interested. Even though a lot of teachers at the time, and I suspect now, we still make a pretty decent wage, so we can afford to do that. Unless it's, 5-star restaurant or something, but most restaurants, we can afford to pay for our dates. However, it was very nice to not have to. That the person's there because they want to be there to a certain degree. They're not looking for a free meal. They're not looking for a sugar daddy, so to speak. So that was interesting. Second thing, and this might be a tradition from most countries at some point in their history, but in China it was very much alive and well, which is the year to engagement rule. And as you probably can guess, once you start dating someone in China, they generally want to know if you're serious about them. And the longer you're with them, the more there's the sense that you're serious about this person. Makes sense, perfectly logical. So usually the idea is if you've been dating about a year, this is going to lead to an engagement of some kind. And what that entails is obviously meeting the parents if you haven't already. And especially meeting the parents in her hometown or his hometown, which is a whole other... I might talk about it in a separate video. It might be a little too long for here. But there's a whole process involved with that. So that's one of the things. If you date someone who's Chinese, generally traditional Chinese culture is you're dating them, it's a serious affair. When you get to that year, it's time to meet the parents and go through that process. So that was, and I did meet one girlfriend's parents while I was there that I was serious, like I had been with most the people I dated. And didn't go to the hometown, but had met them before, and there was the plan to do that. So that was very different. Anyhow, next one. And I can't speak too much to this, so when I talk about this, don't get offended that it's coming from me, a man. I'm just relaying what I've seen and what I've heard from other expat women in China. One of the things that occurs in China that, again, I had heard and seen to a degree was that dating is a little more difficult for expat women, especially non-Asian expat women. And I assume this is for two reasons. Number one, there's a cultural difference in terms of expectations that a woman has for a man in every culture. But especially outside of Asian culture, women in the West tend to be independent, not be as traditional as they used to be, and certainly not be as traditional as Chinese women or people. So already that's going to kind of limit your dating pool. Chinese people tend to be very traditional, tend to not necessarily be as feministic. Whether you think that's a good or bad thing is irrespective. This is just the way things are. So when they try to date, they're going to run into that problem where they may have some very, very strong feelings one way or another, and the local man or woman, depending on your orientation, doesn't share those feelings, and you'll have a more challenging time as a woman dating. Now you're thinking, well, they can just date the expat non-Asian men. They could, but that's a challenge too, because, and I'll be honest, one of the reasons I went to China and eventually to Japan was, like a lot of men, I do have an affinity for Asian women. Call it yellow fever, call it whatever you want. It's just a preference. It's not right, it's not wrong. Just like some people like dating tall people. Some people like, maybe dating people that are muscular, and some people like dating people that are rich. Whatever, it's your choice. There's nothing wrong about it or bad, and you shouldn't be apologetic for it. I'm not. Now, that being the case, if you're a non-Asian expat woman in China, much less in a lot of parts of Asia, the expat men who are there, who are similar to you in terms of the culture, chances are they're not going to be interested in you, because they're in a country that's filled with the archetype that they are interested in. No offense. So if you're going to default back to something familiar, you're going to find they're not as interested. So now your dating pool is even smaller and smaller and smaller. Now again, I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm not saying it to discourage you from going abroad or dating if you happen to find yourself in an Asian country as a non-Asian expat woman. These are just the realities. And I've heard it from women there too who've told me it's really hard being an expat, non-Asian expat woman in Asia if you don't like the locals, or if you can't get along with some of the, can't get your head around some of the ideas or some of the traditions or cultural mindset that people there have. And this is also exacerbated by the fact that the people who do have that mindset may not be interested in you. So, something to keep in mind, dating in Asia. China too. China specifically. Next thing. And this is a phrase you hear across all countries. It's just the vehicular mode of transportation used in the analogy changes. You've probably heard of the town bicycle. For those that don't know what that means, town bicycle is a person, male or female, who readily gives themselves up for sex. I'm not talking about prostitute, I'm just talking about somebody who's free-spirited with their body, let's say, to be polite. Well, in China there's a phrase. It's called the town bus. And I assume it's because there's a large population, therefore there's a greater pool of individuals who maybe have partaken of the carnal pleasures with that individual. And as a single guy, when I was there, I certainly saw these individuals when I would go to different bars or clubs or the usual expat hangouts. In part because some of them maybe were just looking for, to hook up for, the one night stand or a couple nights or whatever, or just to, have fun, nothing serious. So you'd see these individuals over and over again, as I suspect you see them everywhere, even here. But it was interesting hearing that term being used, and in the way it was used. So certainly when you date in China and Asia, for that matter, there will be the bus. Whether you ride is your choice. I never had an interest in that, but it existed. Next point, the comparison game. Now, again, this is something that's universal. Everyone does it, and women, doesn't matter. Where you're dating somebody and you're constantly wondering, I wonder how much money this person makes. I wonder what kind of hobbies they have. Is this person taller or thinner? Are they more muscular? Or, what's their mindset? All these different factors when you're dating also are in play over there, obviously. However, I think there's certain things that are amplified to a degree. So, for example, money. Whether you make a lot of money and how much, compared to maybe somebody that they used to date, or somebody that they maybe would like to date. You'll be compared. Whether or not, you're a certain age, maybe you're younger than you used to or older than you used to. That'll be something that plays out. And there's a whole host of other things. So, anyway, I'll stop right here. Hope that explained it a little better. Hope I went into a little more detail than I had gone in the prior video. If there's anything else that I didn't talk about that you want me to go over, go ahead and put in a comment below, and in a future video I'll do a part 3. Once I get enough questions, that way I can give you even more information regarding this. Anyway, see you guys in the next video.